Closed-circuit television cameras are watching us, even in Thornbury. This is the fourth installment of a series of videos looking at local CCTV. Previous videos covered security cameras at commercial premises, council-owned buildings, and at car parks. This video is about CCTV in Mundy Playing Fields. Mundy Playing Fields is Thornbury's largest open space at 14 acres, with swings, a slide and other similar amusements for small children, a paddling pool, football pitches and a pavilion. This is a story of scaremongering and half-truths concocted by interested parties to get CCTV installed in Mundy Playing Fields. The main source of this comes from the ridiculous Police Council Community Liaison Group, known officially as the Safer, Stronger Community Group Thornbury and Alveston, and which is part of the police's PACT scheme, Partners and Communities Together. This is one of 20 created in South Gloucestershire, which, as well as the council and police, invites representatives from other emergency and public services, the business community, tenants and residents associations, even faith groups. It meets every 3 months and determines the 3 top priorities for police and/or council attention. Since at least the beginning of 2008, concerns have been raised about the alleged antisocial behaviour of youths in Mundy Playing Fields. You will notice that in the December 2008 meeting, the idea of having CCTV in the fields was dropped, as the Town Council did not support the idea. Remember that, Thornbury Town Council did not support CCTV in Mundy Playing Fields. In spring 2009, antisocial behaviour was reported to be on the rise, with incidents on Spring Bank Holiday weekend, as minuted at the Safer Stronger Community Group. The Thornbury Gazette's report from the meeting intensified the potential public alarm at teenage nuisance. The situation was reported to have deteriorated, with youths in the playing fields at night drinking, making noise, vandalising property, urinating and defecating. The worst summer for youth antisocial behaviour in 5 years, Neil Wyman, then beat officer and now acting sergeant for Thornbury, was reported as having said. The cynic in me wonders if someone doesn't know the difference between a molehill and a pile of poo, and you can see my video on moles to see what I mean. By midsummer, the Town Council's Finance and Policy Committee was in on the act, and including in its own minutes the Safer Stronger Community Group's hysteria over antisocial youths. By the autumn, police were excusing their inadequacy in dealing with this alleged nuisance. The youths had mobile phones, you see, and they could ring each other.
Modern technology, we not good at all. He no good, he no good, he no good, he no good. Modern technology, he no good at all.
What this called for was urgent action, and it came in the form of the local Vangies, that's evangelical Christians if you didn't know. Step forward Messrs Primrose and Budd. David Primrose is Vicar of Thornbury and committed to getting his faith message everywhere in Thornbury ad nauseum. Dan Budd is closely associated with NGM, New Generation Music and Mission, a charity that evangelises through the medium of youth music and its performing arts training complex in Thornbury. Budd was previously a key employee there. In the September 2009 meeting, David Primrose proposed Dan Budd to be chair of the local Safer Stronger Communities Group. Neither of these two men had attended the previous 2 meetings. I don't know about in 2008. The election should have been held in June, but it was deferred because of unexpected circumstances. Then Primrose and Budd suddenly appear at the September Safer Stronger Community Group meeting, presumably at the express command of God. Once Dan Budd was elected unopposed in September, David Primrose took no further part in subsequent meetings. He did not attend in December, and nor did he attend in March 2010, for which the minutes are not yet available, but I was there, so I know. Once Primrose had installed Bud as chair in September, the meeting then dealt with what the Vangies wanted: funding for Thornbury FM. Thornbury FM is a community radio station which claims to be for the whole community, but in practice it is dominated by the local Vangies, Anglicans, Baptists, NGM and Bristol Christian Fellowship, both on the board and in the studio. Primrose is the chair of the board of directors of the newly incorporated controlling body of the radio station. Bud was a trustee of the association prior to incorporation. The Safer Stronger Community Group made funding equipment related to the relocation of the station's transmitter one of its priorities. The basis for this was that the station gave out public advice messages about matters which included crime prevention. However, it needs to be said that the station only broadcasts for 8 out of 52 weeks each year, so not much real use anyway. Primrose alleged that 12,000 people tuned in and out of the station and 6,000 were regular listeners. Not bad for a town just of 12,000 inhabitants. However, this was not substantiated at the meeting, and nor has it ever been a serious claim of the station as far as I know. The reality is that the station has lost listeners and lost impetus when it failed to take up the opportunity to apply for a 5-year licence when applications were solicited by Ofcom. The station's finances have never been anything but precarious, and it wanted £4,000 for equipment, having not been able to self-fund because of a poor advertising regime, in my opinion. And so the group endorsed Thornbury FM's funding bid, so that the station could relocate its transmitter to higher ground and then transmit public safety announcements during just 15% of the year to a handful of listeners, and for which a further £1,500 would have to be paid to the station for the privilege of that announcement service. Under Bud's chairmanship, the Safer Stronger Communities Group went on in December 2009 to moan about a puddle in Alverston, speeding electric wheelchairs in Thornbury unbelievably, and raising the idea of street pastors to deal with drunks and broken glass. Well, there had to be something Christian in there. In March 2010, the group made the kebab van in a lay-by on the A38 in Rudgeway a priority issue. What a bunch of tossers. Fortunately, at a later date, common sense prevailed at a higher level, and the application for a grant for equipment for Thornbury FM was dismissed. However, the real point of the Vangie takeover was that they were friends of the police, Avon and Somerset Constabulary having donated money to the station and had a slot on the programming, so the police had an ally chairing the meeting. From the June meeting, the police, in the guise of Neil Wyman, had been pressing for an electronic gate to prevent access to Mundy Playing Fields from the High Street between midnight and 6 a.m. It was the only long-term solution, apparently. Typical police thinking, any youth problem would have started well before midnight, so the alleged antisocial youths would be partially trapped inside the playing fields, but with another legitimate exit further away and the potential for trespass to get back into the high street by shorter, unorthodox routes. According to the police, as reported in the Bristol Evening Post, South Gloucestershire Council supported the gating idea. According to the minutes of the Safer Stronger Community Group's September meeting, South Gloucestershire Council would first have to consider the issue of rights of way. Later on, the idea of gating was dropped, but the police were still reporting it as a live issue in their first Thornbury Beat newsletter in the winter of 2009. Notice here the evidence that the police had funded Thornbury FM and had programming access. However, the magic wand for resolving antisocial behaviour in the playing fields had switched from gates to a CCTV camera. A CCTV camera was lent to the town council on a trial basis by a local firm. Suddenly, it was the best thing since sliced bread and worthy of funding its continued use. The police were for it too. So, the obligatory warning notice appeared at the top of the fields, where the nuisance was perceived to be. But where was the camera? Please see the continuation video about CCTV in Mundy Playing Fields.